Special heat wave Tuesday 15th of July. Got that backpack and jog. I didn't take my military grade. I took my red and white special, donated by an acquaintance in the neighborhood a few months ago, because we'll have to jog and I'm going to see a movie as I went last Tuesday with my anonymous friend. Gotta say commence with gratitude. It is hot HOT again, second day heat wave, third heat wave. Already this summer it's a bit muggy. Gonna salute the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, the electricians, the grocery store clerks. Before you cross the street, turn your head left or right. Make sure you cross safely, prudently, and stay hydrated. Hot car to Montreal. Let's see. Is there anything in the fridge? Oh, there's something in the fridge. Some bread. Somebody put some of that, so I'm gonna leave it for somebody else. Unless, 4 apples, gonna take the apples. That's all I'm gonna take. The rest is for all you people, whoever else gonna need it. Got some bread there, so I'm just gonna take this 4 apples and get going. Let's see if there's something here. 4 apples, I'm gonna jog, gonna put them in the backpack. Let's get ready. I got those red gloves in the backpack. It's a special fitness edition. The red gloves were gifted by my anonymous friend because it's a Dragon versus Trump special edition. Gonna go to see a movie, $5 special movie, and thank you for those who donated these 4 apples. Gonna see if my anonymous friend wants an apple. If not, they're gonna be all for me. For tomorrow, gonna do a apple salad, or gonna have an apple later. So here we go. Get ready. Gonna commence with gratitude and put this backpack on. Thank you for the donation here for the food security. We're gonna get it on the drill, and that's how we're gonna go. Here we go in the sun. Make sure you cross the street prudently as we go. Left or right, and that's how we're gonna get on the traversing side of things, and that's how we're gonna get doing on that. See, we got some beautiful architecture here in Montreal, Hot Island. You can just observe, of course. You can just observe and see how it goes here. See, look at that beautiful architecture as we go. We got some enough of my face, I guess. There we go. Let's go. For the workers, the truckers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the grocery store clerks, beautiful Mother Nature there as we go to my old neighborhood, where it's a $5 special event. Gonna say my gratitude. Grateful, thankful, my rent's paid and electricity bill is paid. That's what I got, and that's how we got it in, and that's how we gotta get it on the left and on the right and in the middle, and all those involved, in the production, distribution of food. Hot day, H-O-T, hot day, H-O-T. It's a hot day today, so we always gotta say a little bit of that hydration time, because on heat waves like this, it's something which you shouldn't do too much exercise outside, but I guess being used to exercising regularly, it is something which will not affect me the same way. So that is just how we do it every day, even yesterday in the heat wave. And yesterday I was a bit moody, and today I was a bit less moody. I guess because my workout training and exercising, but thank goodness God has got us. I'm no longer depressed and suicidal. I've been there, and I cannot stress the importance of regular fitness, regular exercising, and gratitude for mental health. Just gratitude. All this civilization is a privilege, and the ambulance drivers, first responders, gotta salute some love into them. They're on the field. The truckers by the thousands across the 63, 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. And all my struggles, my pain, my suffering, my surviving COVID, and a lot of us are struggling, and it's not just myself, and a lot of people have been like myself, being depressed and suicidal, and admiring some of beautiful flowers, and taking their second chances, and doing some of that good loving today. I know somebody's gonna do some of that loving and hugging like you never hugged before is the main message. H-U-G, hug like you never hugged before is the main message. And today we're wearing different type of shoes, because I said I'm gonna go on the light side, because of course I gotta get a little bit of that jogging in it, and maybe lose some weight, gain it back up when I eat some wafers with Rock and roll 24/7. For the plumbers, the electricians, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, firefighters. Turn your head left and right. When you cross the streets, that's a bite. And you know we out of sight. In the sight and in the light. Who's building those satellites? That's we go just how we do. Now we know just how we you. Construction workers doing some of that construction. Always got to salute because I will to build the 4 buildings in the North American complex. Whence we're gonna build together, calling all to support. The dream, the dream, the dream. The dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, which is my dream, the imperial democratic republic to constitute by the fusion of Canada and the United States. Check my past videos, analyze intensely, discreetly, and with discretion and discernment my trinity of theories, which I put on the table: the CIT, citizen integration theory, DRT, debt fusion theory, the DFT, democratic fusion theory. As I look at this beautiful green, the nurses, those in the daycare changing some diapers, I gotta salute the daycare workers changing some diapers. This beautiful majestic trees here, you know. We got some beautiful majestics. We got some trees. We got some youth exercising. We got some bakers. We got some public workers. We got some fountains, and we got this new terrain coming. Yes, that's what I love here. And I finally did a good job with the building of the terrain here, you know. Building of the terrain. New terrain for the youth, and this is the second time I passed by, but you can see in my past videos that it wasn't like this, and this is a embellishment. And of course, for years and years and years, and during COVID and even now, you know, I have been and will call for the mass rehabilitation, of course, of the infrastructure of the North American Collective, the youth there. You know, a little bit of that love and smiling, giggling, that's what's important. They're of course safe and secure, and that's what matters the most, you know. And this is all new here. See, all this terrain is all brand new, and I love how it's done with a little bit of turquoise. And it's the second time I pass by, and it's really nice. I really love it. It's really a good job, I find, and I really love the color choice, you know. Makes a bit turquoise and the bluish, kind of super cool. Gives it a little bit of cool atmosphere, so congrats. This is all new. This is just this year's open, this first summer. This was all built, and the other side was all built. So we need more terrains like this for the youth and for total security, total service, total defenses. Of course, we're gonna integrate our plateau for a public-private partnership in the North American Collective to have total security, total service, total defense, and integrate via my new 911 Dragon Army protocols. That's what we're gonna get doing with that, and they're doing a little bit of that singing there. And of course, it's always good to see the youth at play. Super important to get that exercise for them, and it's something which we gotta be loving a little bit, and that's why we have to be drilling. I have a little bit of garbage I have to discard, but that's where we're gonna get a little bit of garbage here. I was looking for a garbage bag, so it's a little bit of that for the public workers. And this is of course a new terrain which was built here. So as we go jogging, we gotta go to my old neighborhood, and that's always something which we have to be mindful of, because we got this privilege of civilization here. We have the electricity. Thank you to the workers of Hydro-Quebec of the past, and this is a new terrain here, a new field which was built and financed, and that's what money is, you know, to enable us to do all the things we do. So always good to go with this field here. Baseball, and that's a rock and roll. Thank you to the public workers to put their brains and muscle, you know. Take some brains, take some muscle to build, and I really gotta give a thumbs up. Good work done to those who build that terrain there, you know. That terrain, that terrain is really nice, and it's exquisite, and it takes work, labor, arbeit. And that's just the work that it takes to build housing just like this. You know, gotta salute those construction workers going on those cranes, you know, and the truckers now, and the butchers, the bakers, public workers, those doing some of that cheeseburgers, hamburgers, and fast food, laying up those pastries, to be done. It takes labor, you know. Sometimes we gotta meditate as a philosopher, artist, athlete, and whose neurodivergence, my main problem in the past years has been the fact that I live with a condition, not an illness, not a mental illness, a condition known as Asperger's, and that has been my main challenge, I guess, in the past years, and the problems would come with along having this neurodivergent condition. What a beauty. Good job here. Look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? One of the best gardens, and look at those big ones. So beautiful here. So colorful, mix of colors. Mix of rich, diverse garden. And see? Wow. That's beautiful. One of the best gardens here. As I pass by, it just gives me a little bit of a refreshing vibe, you know. So that's some of that good loving with that, you know. So this is the Montreal Hawk Island. Gotta salute the firefighters. Gotta move out of the way of the firefighters. Send them some loving. If nobody wanna love him, can send them to me, you know. Play black, white, and rainbow, being part of the LGBTQ community, but you gotta be on that 18 plus, you know. So sometimes which criticism gotta be tempered by a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of a gratitude, you know, because all this civilization is a privilege, you know. That was my thesis back in 2023. The privilege of civilization, the privilege of civilization of which we all share at different points in time as an individual sovereign citizen, at different points of the interactions with several points events, whether today 15th of July 2025, me admiring that garden, and of course whether yesterday 14th of July and tomorrow is gonna be another day, and so we're gonna get drilling, and it's gonna be the 16th on that Wednesday. Today's Tuesday, so we got the city workers, Montreal Hawk Island, and imagine just having water, you know, having a water fountain to hydrate is something which you gotta be, I guess, mindful and appreciating all the work and the labor which was done underneath, you know, underneath the water fountains to get it done, and to get me to be able to hydrate, and you as an individual sovereign citizen, and somebody else, you know, to be able to hydrate also. This is not just for my personal benefit, it's for the collective common benefit, is, you know. So that is basically a fundamental aspect of the privilege of civilization, of which, of course, when we interact, as I said, in different point events, I don't want to be too scholarly, academic, intellectual, cratic about it, but fundamentally, in essence, civilization is a privilege. Just having running water, electricity. Gotta salute Hydro-Quebec. Go Hydro-Quebec, go Hydro-Quebec, go Hydro-Quebec, go Hydro-Quebec. They're on the field now, changing some of that work here in the metropolis city, 2.5 million people. You know, so it's always a constant work which interacts with other work. That's why millionaires and billionaires should be also, as I encourage them, to give a little bit of charity. You know, now Wall Street has got that buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. Look at beautiful Mother Nature there. Wow. Beautiful Mother Nature, and that's what it is, and that's what we have to be doing. So it's also doing and being at the same time, you know, admiring, and then putting what we have to put on the table as an individual sovereign, what we offer, and then counterbalancing by action. And I make no pretense that I am fully selfless, because I'm not. I will my own bacon and wafers, and I've been craving a massage therapy for years and years and years, but you know what? The public workers, they deserve massage therapy more than me, and across the empire. And of course, billionaires, millionaires, Wall Street finance those who pick up the garbage. Every week. I got 3 services in my neighborhood: the garbage collection, sanitation collection, you know, finance them a massage therapy session. I've been craving one for years. That's what I really would need to be even more joyous. Although now I guess I'm happy, got a smile on my face, and gratitude comes with the territory, to take all this freedom, freedom. Got freedom tatted up there. I don't know when I got it, probably decades and decades and decades ago, just like Canada there with the lion, Canada. And other tats, because my memory goes blackout before spring 2014. It's like RA retrograde amnesia, so I have trouble accessing memories. Of course, that's long ago, but so I don't know, of course, whatever the case may be with the left and the right and whatever the proposition is, that they gotta get it on the go, but sometimes we just gotta play on the left and the right and in the middle, and that's how we got there, so whatever the case may be, is something which we gotta be on the transmission point of things, and we have to, of course, be incremental about it, and we have to discover new ways to innovate, I guess, in this world where we are now. Tough economic times, is a tough economic times now, and commercial times, and myself also I'm financially stressed, but I'm grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bills paid, and got that food and got that coffee, so that's always something which I'm gonna be grateful for. As a matter of fact, I had 2 coffees earlier this morning because I couldn't help myself but do a few hours of geopolitical analysis and theorizing. That's it. And that's what I do. That's what I do every day, 24/7. That's it, that's all. And that's I gotta turn my head left and right, even if it is, and even if we go, So, whatever the case may be, my financial stress aside, it is the only financial stress aside now, and I gotta say that many people have living in now across Quebec and the United States, paradoxically, in a condition which I have lived for years and years and years, but me, due to my Asperger's. So what is Asperger's, now that I'm on the topic? It's not a mental illness. Hey, that's nice. Look at that. Kind of artsy. Beautiful gardens here. So Asperger's is not a mental illness. First and foremost, you gotta commence by that. And there's more and more education, what Asperger's is and what Asperger's is not. It's not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition which makes people like myself with this neurological mental condition known as Asperger's weird, awkward, bizarre, and strange in certain things of a societal nature. Look at those beautiful flowers and those beautiful flowers. So Asperger's, it's not a mental illness. Aspies, like myself, who constitute a tiny minority of the population, we are less than 1%, less than half of a percentile. It's about 0.44%. 0.44%. Again, 0.44%. So it's a very tiny minority, even less, way less than my fellow LGBTQ community. My fellow LGBTQ community are about 6 to 7%, 6 to 7%, and that's how we have, and that's how we go, and that's how we rock and roll, and Yorilu. Ilu. Amen. Illusions. So that is just something which we have to live with, and I guess Aspies, in many ways, we break people's illusions, I guess. Aspies, I got that rock and roll song. I say Aspies, say we break people's illusions, Aspies, I always say with a little bit of a smile. I say Aspies, I guess, we're kind of born with this curse, which sometimes transforms after blood, sweat, and tears into breaking people's illusions in many ways. So it takes a little bit of humor with it, and I gotta give a little bit of a shout out to my anonymous friend who wasn't my friend because of the money, because I never had any. But of course, the point is, of course, that we have to be mindful. Always we have to build bridges as Aspies. I mean myself as an individual Aspie. We have to build bridges. Whether small bridges, medium bridges, bigger bridges, and bigger bridges, and super big bridges. We always have to constantly build bridges, you know. We always have to constantly build bridges. So those 4 categories aside, within those 4 major categories, there could be 4 smaller categories in each of the 4. So that'll be more 16, 4 branched into 4, you know. So that's how we got with that. That's how we got it on the go, you know. So it's something which we have to be doing with that, and something which we have to be on that appellation, you know. So 4, whatever the 4. So the propositions, however intellectual, academic, scholarly philosophies we might indulge in to discuss Asperger's, I just want to be succinct, laconic, I guess, and just summarize it as it's not a mental illness. It is due to the fact that we have these tiny mutations of the brain, of course, at the nano level, at the microscopic level. So these mutations are not really apparent outwardly on the outside exterior of the brain, of the outside exterior of the brain, you know, outside exterior of the brain. So they're not visible externally. They're not bulging, you know, they're not like bulging big thick bulbs mutating out of the brain. They're at the nano level, at the microscopic level. And so those mutations of the brain makes us we have more difficulties when we interact socially. And sometimes we're very direct and straightforward, which can offend, but it's not how we mean to offend or trigger or, of course, agitate or really cause any malicious intentions behind our responses. Is just that we see the world differently, you know, and we have these different way of analyzing, of interpreting. Depends, of course, what I'm referring. Our difficulties mostly come in the sphere of the social conditions, of the social norms, of the way most of the population interacts. The 99.56% who are neurotypicals, with which us Aspies, we constantly have to build bridges with on a constant basis, on a daily basis in our interactions, right? And keep in mind that most of our daily routines, ritualize, happen of course to be on the congruent side of things. And we got 4 seconds better. So when you hear that, get out of the way and slow down your car, slow your bike, and you know that's what you gotta be doing. You know, you gotta slow down and make sure of course you gotta slow down. Just slow down when you hear that. Just take a moment to that, and that's all we have. And yeah. Just slow down when you hear that, you know. It's better to slow down your car and move out of the way, just for prudence, because you never know, you know. Just the best thing to do, you know. If you're a bit late, and you know, tardiness and not being on time, it's always an Aspie trait. Asperger's is of course something which we have to be understanding about, but just slow down, you know. Slow down and look left and right, and when you hear the fire trucks, because you know it's our brothers and sisters in uniform, you know. Wall Street financed them a massage therapy session they need a good massage therapy session, you know. They of course do, of course, their massage therapy session with that, and that's what they do, and we gotta do it, you know. They gotta get some massage therapy sessions with it, and that's how we gotta get the Dragon Army for total security, total service, total defense, to provide those services, you know, because it doesn't take much education to learn a little bit of secure massaging of the body. The body is a temple for pleasure and purpose, and here we're gonna cross and again slow down, you know. If you hear somebody crossing the street like that and hear that lights, make sure, you know, you slow down and take your turn left and right. That's how we got, and that's how they're gonna do it there, you know. As we cross the street, and make sure, you know, we cross the street safely, prudently, and cross the street on the right side of things, and then we got to get to our point and to our business, safe, secure, maybe a bit late, but better late than never, I guess. Better late than never. That's what it is with that. That's what we gotta get doing. So we gotta get doing on the go, you know. So it's something which we have to be mindful of a civilization, and I guess it's always our duty in many ways, you know. Our duties, our responsibilities, our rights, and in the public, our duties, you know. The duties, because I'm in the public. So in the public, I have added responsibilities, duties, and obligations. I have added responsibilities, duties, and obligations. And my added responsibilities, duties, and obligations are added and have to be complementary to another citizen's duties and obligations and responsibility, the individual and the collective. The individual and the collective. Because my individual safety, security, liberty, and of course, me trying to get to point where I'm trying to get, which is going to watch a movie with my anonymous friend. And I guess I can go through this side. I can take a little bit of what? Rock and roll, and I of course have to step it up a bit because I don't want to be late, but I gotta step it up with prudence. In the back here I enter my own neighborhood, nothing that I will to go back to, but again, you know, you're in the public, so you got added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, which usually you don't have, I don't have, and you don't have those responsibilities, those duties, those obligations, as of course committently you would be staying at home, or I would be staying at home. We would, I would, you would, somebody else would, XYZ citizens would have less responsibilities, duties, and obligation. Of course, certain things, when we go online, on the internet, there's always the public-private partnership, right? There's always a public-private partnership, and there's, depending on the websites we go, with who we interact, if we chat, there's always a little bit of responsibilities and duties, counterbalanced with the freedom and the liberty. I don't know when I got that tatted, supposedly because I kept journals. I got tatted that in New York, close to the where the Twin Towers were post September 11th. But my memory goes blackout before. So I have a good memory of the past 7, 8, 9, 10. After 10 it kind of goes a little bit blurred, a little bit on the blackout. 2014 spring, it kind of goes a little bit dark, you know. Sometimes it's alcohol. I don't know if I was a junkie, or I drank alcohol, or did lots of drugs, or I was attacked by surprise, hit my head on the concrete in the Montreal Metro, had a dislocated right shoulder, and went to the Jewish General Hospital. I have to go. I'm gonna try to go as soon as possible in the coming days to the Jewish General Hospital to retrieve the archives. For when was that exactly? And I was bloodied up, and had that trauma and scars on my body, but maybe those incidents, sometimes it comes back, the memory, but for now it's just 3 years and I have trouble remembering the life and the trauma, and, you know, it's like, it's PTSD, I guess. But I'm happy, joyous. I've been through a lot. I've been depressed and suicidal. Been depressed, been suicidal, you know. And it's something which Aspies, unfortunately, in my community, Aspie community, we suffer more than the regular population. More than the regular population. So I'm gonna go through here. So the majority of the population, of course, do not suffer as much. We are nine times prone to, of course, being suicidal and depressed. 9 times. Keep that in mind. 9 times more than the population, more than the regular population. So that is a big percentage. 9 times is very big, you know. 9 times is way bigger than the majority of the population, right? And at the same time, the problem is unemployment. So the majority of the unemployment is, of course, the unemployment is 11 times higher. This is unacceptable, morally, ethically, in terms of rendering justice. It is unacceptable that Aspies we face, of course, an 11 times higher depression rate. 9 times higher depression rate, 11 times, correction. 11 times, the unemployment rate is 11 times higher than the majority of the population. And see, because of Asperger's, how my brain now functions. Now I, of course, integrally concord it, and of course, meditate on all the things which are happening now in the civilizational complex. I know that this highway, as long as other highways are critical for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex, security, service, and defense in the complex of which we are, of course, integrated in the left and the right in the spherical manners of which we do. Consequently, all these highways, which of course are carrying some goods in those truckers. The truckers, I gotta salute. They're carrying some goods. The truckers are carrying some goods with that, and that's what they do, you know, carrying some of that bread, that bacon, that cheese, that lettuce, that bread, that cheese, and consequently that's what we have to keep in mind. Consequently, that of course they're vital for the North American civilizational complex's continuity. Oh, I got 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, just in time. So that is just how my brain functions and operates. Of course, that is just how my brain functions and operates, and that's just how it is. Without the functionality of the brain is something which, you know, we have to concordantly be and get it on the mushy side of things as we go in concordium to appellate here in my own neighborhood. Nothing that I will to go back to, but of course, that's just how my brain operates, because of course Aspies, we have special interests, and those special interests, also known as obsessive interests, preoccupy our daily routines, our habits, consequently vary with intensity, super focus, super concentration, and we're super in it and involved. When we're involved, when we do, when we study, when we learn, when we work in those special interest areas, of which of course we have the special interest areas, which of course they differ from citizen to citizen and from different population to different population in the varieties of our interactions, of which we are consequently on the prudent side of the sphere of Aspiness and Aspie characteristics and special interests, and which mine happen to be geopolitics. And of course that's why when I cross highways like this one, I always meditate about the truckers and all the security safety apparatus and that is concordant to our civilizational complex in terms of the matters of the transportation and the logistics and the supply chains, which constitute, of course, both from a binational perspective, because I always think in a binational Canada, United States, because not just because I'm a mystic, although I am, and of course I believe in reincarnations, and I was born different times, different places, once as a woman, post 76 in the United States, twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces, twice served in the same United States Armed Forces, twice, post 76, 156 years apart, And so my analysis is always from the point, of course, of security, service, and defense, from integrated North American perspective, Canada, United States. And of course, that's just how my interaction goes in concordium to all the other interactions of which we do, and which we appellate on the single point event of which is transpiring now on this 15th of July. And of course, knowing that they're going north or south, because I'm heading north now, passing through my own neighborhood again, nothing that I will to go back to. I used to live over there. And of course, that is just the interaction of my individual sovereign citizenship, and me as an aspie, and me as a philosopher, artist, athlete, geopolitical, theoretical analyst and theorist, independent geopolitical, theoretical analyst and theorist, and of course, philosopher and mystic. So the point is, what I'm trying to explain without being too intellectual, academic, bureaucratic about it. How about this yellow, hey, nice yellow, what the beauty. So concordium and inconcordiate is the point is that we're open for sabotage and espionage due to the geopolitical realities which are transparent, of course, and which have been unfolding. I gotta say and reiterate, because of course my work and my special interest, part of my trinity, I got 3 special interests, is geopolitics, and of course I take great pride in my geopolitical work. And I gotta state and restate, and I state in every video, that I of course have predicted what's happening now. Back in 2019, in October, November, I had predicted what's happening now. Back in October, November 2019, I had predicted what's happening now in 2019. Back in October, November, I had predicted what's happening now. Back in October, November. So of course, due to that prediction, I gotta consequently be aware of all the interactions as we pass here to get it on the go, on the side of things, and that's what we gotta get on the left and on the right to get consequently for all the work that's being done here. Just gotta circumvent. And thank you, public workers. This is nice, you know, which we have to be on the left and on the right, and that's how we have to be consequential about and be prudent in the left and the right analogy of the things which we are in the public sphere here, and always admire the work which is being done now, the work in the public sphere, sometimes which we have to be doing and which we have to be appreciating about. So of course that is something which we have to meditate and reiterate, and of course be grateful about all the arbeit which is being done across the empire, coming the Democratic Imperial Republic, all the work to change the aqueducts, change the sewers, repair the cracks. Anyway, so just to finalize the point mentioned before, that we are open to sabotage and espionage. So all our highways, integrated highways across the North American Collective, are open for espionage and sabotage, because we have made powerful enemies which can of course employ underworld criminal organizations in order to foment interior sabotage and espionage, and of course to create problems in both Canada and the United States because of our involvement. And even one theory which I have as a philosopher, a geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and strategist, because my strategies are binational for the North American Collective fundamentally, and of course in consequence to the appellation of the strategy, of course the bipolar strategy. It's not to be confused with the psychological mental condition, but of course in the bipolarity, as in of course the bipolar strategy, which is a bipolar strategy to be on the go, bipolar strategy to be on the go with that, and that's how we got, and that's how we do, and that's how we rock and roll, you know. Something which we have to be doing, and that's something which we gotta be on the go, you know. And of course, the bipolar strategy is the bipolar strategy which of course consequently has to be doing on the left and right and dice and Z, and that's how we got, and we gotta get doing on that, and it's something which we have to be doing do some for the goal, and we gotta get that's how we have to be consequently to be prudent about, you know, when we cross the street, and we gotta get on that solution to get it on the go, and to get it formalized in such a way that without being too intellectually adaptive, to simply put it straight in a manner, is because of our involvement in what I call the DMA, direct military action by NATO countries, and of course the NATO suppliants, that we made powerful enemies and potential enemies within diaspora communities which are from non-NATO member countries. So that requires a whole hours and hours and series of discussion, as anybody wants to finance and commission any work. If not, I want to know nothing about it. It's rock and roll, friends with benefits only, or nothing about it, friends with benefits only, and that's about how we rock and roll with that. And if not, I don't want to know nothing about it. It's not something which I can be too sentimental about in certain conclusions and matters at hand, because I really don't need, and I have no expectations which can exceed and have to be a priori totally with my individual liberty and sovereignty concluded, of course, just manners in my interaction with all of my fellow human beings, and of course the neurotypicals, you the 99.56%, and to know that we have a relationship which we got to be building on bridges, and on my behalf there's no antagonistic feelings, there's no resentful feelings, there's no antagonistic feelings or sentiments. So I myself, as an aspie who's neurodivergent, who is also an artist, an athlete, a philosopher, a mystic, a geopolitical economist, and a strategist, again, who has predicted what's happening now geopolitically in the world, and I have proof aforementioned of the priori back, of course, in 2019 in October, November, that consequently my justice and of course my protuberance is something which of course has to be concorded in the protrudent things of things, and we gotta get doing on the market, and to do it for that and to do it on the go. So that is just to say that there's no antagonistic feeling, right? I don't have many aspects. I see myself as an individual aspect. We don't have antagonistic relationships, right? With you, the majority, the 99.56%. Those, of course, relations have to be built. In a consequential manner. They have to be built on mutual respect, on mutual benefit, mutual justice, and mutual benefit. And that's it, that's all. And that's why I always state, I don't want to waste anybody's time, really. It's friends with benefits only, because that's how I rock and roll, and pledge your allegiance, support the dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, and the democratic imperial republic to be formed by fusing Canada and the United States via my trinity of theories, the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, debt refusion theory, and the DFT, the democratic fusion theory, to be consequently on the go. And that's something which we have to constitute in a manner being to be doing, and the things which we have to be doing. So that's something which you have to understand fully and inconsequentially for the level of which we are, and of course something to be understood fully and internally in your dynamics when you hear the appellations and when you hear these words, or you don't, or somebody does, or when I discuss with somebody. I'm just gonna have to let people know that I have Asperger's, and of course that Asperger's, that my aspiness is, like many Aspies, can be weird, awkward, and bizarre, and socially we have difficulties with social interactions. And I used to live over there. I remember moving, and supposedly it was 2015, because I thought it was 2016. Just gonna turn my head left to right. So supposedly it was 2015, right? But I thought it was 20, so I thought it was 2016. Supposedly it was July 2015, so it's been 10 years. I used to live right there. So I used to live in a moldy underground prison type. It wasn't really a prison, but it was very small, way smaller than I live now. It was like a small, moldy type of place, small, moldy type of situation, very small, very moldy type of situation, very small, moldy place, And I used to live over there, so this is my old neighborhood. Nothing that I will to go back, I guess. If I wouldn't have moved, I would have probably been, who knows, ended on the streets. Maybe become head of a criminal underworld organization. I don't know. I don't like violence, you know. I don't like violence. I don't like violence. I don't like violence. I lived it. I was bloodied up. Survived, and I moved in 2015 supposedly. I thought it was July 2016, but we're in July now, so it's been 10 years. I used to live there in a small underground type of prison cell, you know, very small, moldy, underground, moldy, with black, whitish, reddish, greenish type of mold. And I moved, and I was depressed, suicidal for a few years, and what got me out of being depressed and suicidal was crossing Canada coast to coast. Crossing Canada coast to coast. So crossing Canada coast to coast. In August 2017, I went, of course, all the way to BC, British Columbia, Vancouver. And of course, I went to BC, British Columbia. And that got me out of being depressed and suicidal. And of course, that got me out of being depressed and suicidal. And of course, that got me out of being depressed, you know, and suicidal. That event, crossing Canada coast to coast. And in September 2017, 2017, in September 2019, I went out east in Nova Scotia, Halifax. So summer 2017, cross Canada coast to coast, ocean to ocean, Atlantic to the Pacific. And that event really changed my whole life. Before that, I was depressed. I was suicidal, and that event changed my whole life. I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians. I established a considered family, Quebecers, Canadians, North Americans, and all, of course, who come to join us here. All who come to join us here in this coming democratic imperial republic, which we're going to fuse. My way to fuse Canada best, and you know, geopolitically, that's our common destiny. And of course, I've been writing tens of thousands of pages of philosophy of geopolitical theorizing and analysis, such as, of course, the new 911, total dragon for total S, total security, total service, total defense, to be complementary on the left and on the right, of course, to be in concordant with my public-private partnership vision, the democratic republic vision for the North American collective dominion, the bipolar geopolitical strategy, not to be confused with bipolarity as in the psychological condition, but merely from the side, of course, of the bipolar, as of course the mere strategy of the development, of course, to concord. And here we're gonna go by that side, we're gonna take a right, and we're gonna zigzag to go to the movies. So yeah, I used to live over there. Nothing that I will to go back to. It was a moldy underground place, and I survived. And the problem with Aspies, three main things that Aspies we face is lack of friends. I don't want to be making any friends, really a few only, and those friends with benefits only, and gotta get it for that, and gotta get it for the go. And that's love for my fellow firefighters, you know, and that's all we have, and that's all we gotta get doing with that. And I just saw somebody on the knees. I guess it made me think of a marriage proposal. I'm gonna propose again, I guess, a marriage, you know. Gonna propose again, marriage, I guess. And if not, and that's what we got, and that's what we gotta get on that proposal, to get a little bit of that left, right, and in the middle. That's what made me think the firefighter. Say yes to the firefighters. We gotta love it. We're gonna marry Canada, United States my way, and we're gonna do good. We're gonna do good from now on. Myself included, and all who come to join us. We're gonna have a new concordium of understanding here, and the imperial understanding, you know. And we're gonna get this kingdom done, and it's gonna be where we ensure freedom, and my brothers and sisters incarcerated, we're gonna get a second chance, you know. And we're gonna build a 44. We're gonna build a 44 tunnels together, conclusively build the 44, you know, tunnels. That means that for the North American civilizational complex, we're gonna build 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, and gonna salute the ambulance drivers, the firefighters, the cooks, the nurses, those who build the 3G, 4G, 5G apparatus. Slow down when you hear the ambulance, the police, the ambulance, the police, or the firefighters. You gotta slow down, and that's what we got, and that's what we gotta get going on that. Because civilization is a privilege, you know. All civilization is a privilege, and that's what we have to be doing on that. And being that civilization is a privilege is something which, of course, we have to meditate on all the conclusive side of points of things where we are now, that of course all this civilizational complex is it's a privilege, you know. It's the privilege of civilizational privilege, which has to be concorded into our advancement into the democratic imperial republic via this new concordium, which we're gonna establish together. Of course, we're going to establish together, and that's how we're going to establish together here in this new world, because of course it requires our common understanding and common interactions, of which we are in concordium about, and which we of course have to be prudent, and we have to analyze on a daily basis, as of course we have the strategies and the interactions to get it on the harmonious side of things. And our daily living and our daily routines and habits of Aspies, are of course predisposed to those special interests. And of course those special interests for me are geopolitics 24/7, sports and fitness 24/7, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport, and of course rock and roll. So all day my energies, my mental faculties, and most of my workings and inner daily routines, because we have ritualized like routines, are of course involved in doing those special interests, also known as obsessive interests. But it renders no justice for me to use the word obsessive, because it's not obsessive in the point of view that it's obsessive as a negative connotation. But of course, from the perspective of another citizen, it is something which you have to understand from your point of view, right? So it's a point of view. So the point of view is, of course, from a neurotypical perspective, the 99.56%, and how we equilibrate our understanding while we lack certain social skills and dynamics, while we lack some social skills and dynamics in the manner of the interactions on a daily basis and congruent to everything that we do, which is fundamental to the core essence of what Aspiness is manifested as. And again, not a mental illness, but its manifestations can, of course, happen in different consequential, prudent things. And that's what we have to be doing. You know, we have to always build bridges and explain to fellow citizens that Aspiness is this core fundamental essence, which, of course, does not interject and does not have antagonistic relations with any of you 99.56%ers. The vast majority of the population of you are neurotypicals, and you see the world in certain ways, while we see the world in another way, and thus we always have to build bridges. So the building of those bridges require a certain level of understanding, and of course our understanding and our consequential energies and how we live on it on the daily basis is something which, of course, is fundamental about it, all the appellations of which we have to be doing on the daily basis, right? So all the points in the daily basis of the appellation of the congruencies of which we manifest our Aspiness in counterpoise with your neurotypicalness, it's not antagonistic. Point to say, remarks to say. But the problem, because Aspies, we suffer a lot, many Aspies, myself included, you know, isolation, self-harm, and I was depressed, I was suicidal. And the problem is 80% of Aspies are unemployed. 8 out of 10. So that's 4/5, you know, 4/5. So 4/5, that's a lot. So basically it's 80%. So that's the point I have to make, that 80% is totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. You cannot accept 80% unemployment. And I had many jobs. The point is that, of course, they were short-lived. 2 weeks, 3 days, 3 months, 4 months, a few weeks and days, right? So 80%, flag spotted. I always carry my flag tatted up. I don't know when I got that tatted, but anyway, so that is the point I gotta make, that it's unacceptable ethically and morally for Aspies to be 80% level unemployment, right? Really, it's unemployment. It's of course unacceptable, you know. So it's quite something which we have to be regular about, and of course be on. And sometimes we're straightforward and direct, you know, and because we have a different mind and our intellectual capabilities can, of course, be of help, but counterpoised in the societal natures, we lack the dimensions of knowing when we cross lines sometimes socially, or we have to be told that, you know, you offended me, please. Okay, no problem, I'm gonna stop. I didn't know. It's just this social awareness. That's the problem with Aspies, you know, like myself. So we have to be told directly, take your distance, or could you please stop talking about that? I'm not interested, because we don't know these things, you know. We're not aware, because our mind, due to those mutations, are different, and so we function on basically like frequencies also, you know, if you want to say you tune. So if you tune in my radio, you got three main things going on 24/7. You got geopolitics, you got rock and roll, and you got sports and fitness, or dancing is my favorite sport, and you got thereof dance choreography. So you tune in, Adrian Hanna Dragon's radio, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom is mostly that, geopolitical theorizing, analysis, and development of strategy. My bipolar strategy, not to be confused with bipolars in the psychological condition, but bipolar, of course, as in the mere geopolitical perspective for total BDD, benevolent dominion and dominance via my DRT, and to fuse Canada and United States in a democratic imperial republic. And thus, let's have that written in the coming days, weeks, months ahead. Let's do it September 11th. I'm Mount Royal with a new table. Mount Royal, I had the Belvedere Conjuring Act at the top of my favorite second home. Mount Royal, where my mistress in the forest and the mountain, dragon on the mountain, Mount Royal is, to sign and do amendments to both Canada and United States Constitution, to fuse it and to create the two public-private partnership complementary cooperative institutions, the Dragon Army, aka Democratic Imperial, SSD Legion, Security and Service Legion, of course SSD, Security and Service Legion, SSD Legion, Security Service and Defense Legion, SSD Legion, Security Service and Defense Legion, and that's what we have to be doing. And of course the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Democratic Republic Integrated Dance Legion, to dance for the environment and education, to dance for the environment and education, and to dance for the environment and education, and to environmental action and defense and action and education for both the environment and for total SSD. My new 911 protocols and the DRT have to be implemented. Of course, that's what I'm good at. So if you tune in, you know what to expect. It's geopolitics, sports and fitness, and geopolitical theorizing and analysis. That's 24/7 on the compromise, and we gotta be that balance, you know, in equilibrium, and to get a little bit of that truth, which sometimes the truths gotta manifest in making understanding that civilization is a privilege, and then we move forward from that, and we build from there, and we build from what Asperger's is and what is not, which is not a mental illness, and we see the world differently. And here I got flashes from my own neighborhood, because I don't remember much of my life prior to like spring 2014, but I used to live here. And of course, it's kind of like the last year since I moved. I remember that moldy place, and very moldy on the ground, and I cleaned, and I started moving, and I got cross Canada coast to coast. I got out of depression. I created my own program system, and of course, which we have to be doing. And the old program system, which we have created, my fitness program, to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario. Because suffice it to say that I got proof for this. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. October, November, I predicted an international conflagration, aka World War III, on the horizon approaching due to several factors and layers. Of course, mainly due to unresolved 20th century Cold War specific Cold War specific events that were not, and events and realities that were not, of course, resolved fully. So that was my prediction. That was the prediction based on those elements which are not resolved fully during the Second World War, that these are gonna restart, recommence. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the street, because you never know, due to several elements. It's possible that the citizen driver presses the accelerator instead of the brake, and here going by my old neighborhood, nothing that I want to go back, just move forward as I go. Survive being attacked by surprise cars, and loneliness and isolation and depression, and lost between 80 and 93 pounds. I started working out, training, exercising back in 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast, and of course crossing Canada coast to coast made me come out of being depressed and suicidal, and of course that's when I got out of my depression. Was depressed, was suicidal, and of course consequently, congruently, that's what's changed my life. My whole life changed, turned around by me crossing Canada coast to coast. So I have written a document, a theoretical paper document, which I've been calling for the mass financing of citizens to work out, train, exercise, and parallel for mass tourism, to establish an esprit de corps between, of course, Canada and the United States, and to get rid of the border, create a common passport. And we got to do a great census, and integrate all our security forces, the police forces, the RCMP, merge it with the FBI, CIA, and the National Guard, and all security service and institutions into the Dragon Army, colloquially known as the Imperial SSD Legion, to be formed via my new 911 total security, total service, total defense protocols. And we're going to rebuild the ghettos, the North American inner urban cities. We're going to rebuild them, and we're going to have new 3G, 4G, 5G apparatus. And in a public-private partnership, we're going to mass build webcams everywhere for total security, total service, total defense, and total surveillance for total security, total service, total defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, as we're going to merge together. We're going to implement my DRT theory, which is paradoxically on the table. We're going to take all the public-private debt, and we're going to convert all the public-private debt of Canada. We're going to convert it to US dollars. We're going to add it with the US, and we're going to create a new currency and a new central bank. And we have to implement my DRT, and we're going to create the UE. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, the UE. That's what requires my astrological brother Bill Gates, mass investment, mass. All the tech giants, all the BlackRock and Blackstone are two financial institutions which are private. They merged, they split in 1989, I believe, or 1988, 1989, and of course somewhere around that time in the late 80s, maybe 88, maybe 89, BlackRock and Blackstone, and of course consequently it requires all my RBC Bank as well, all the public and private financial institutions, technology institutions, corporations, organizations for the democratic imperial republics. This new financial concordium which we're going to do, and we're going to integrate and mass mobilize the population, and of course we're going to rebuild the ghettos. Do the Criminal Rehabilitation Act in order to build a 44, construct 44 mass tunnels across the North American Collectif, across the empire, in order to, of course, have citizens, mass fitness, financing, mass tourism, create a common passport, a common currency, a common passport, a common currency. That's what we're gonna do. A common passport, passport together. And we're gonna, of course, create the UE, the universal exchange unit. And of course, we're gonna get serious for security, service, and defense in the emergency status which we are. We're gonna get that coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and of course we're gonna do mass rebuilding of the infrastructure via my DRT theory, the aforementioned DRT, debt refusion theory, which we have to implement. I can't believe I thought it was gonna take me more, but here I am. So I'm going to see the movies there, Cinestars, at the movie theaters. Please give 1% of last week's proceedings and this week's proceeding, including 1% of what I'm gonna donate, of course, for Texas, and that's what we do for Texas. 1%. Go Hydro-Quebec, go butchers, go bakers, go nurses, go doctors, go firefighters, plumbers and electricians, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those, of course, who get on that go to get it loving. And that's what we have to be doing on that. Baking, cooking, shaking up some of those hamburgers, cheeseburgers. We have no other solution but to implement my DRT, because, of course, the DRT solution is the solution, because now we got 4 major economic prices. The prices keep increasing prices keep increasing every day. The stagnation of the salaries do not increase. The rent keeps increasing. Mine, of course, also increased. I'm not gonna say by how much. I'm gonna say 10 maximum, maybe exactly $10. And of course, the other problem is the credit cards are being swiped now. Now the swiping of the credit cards, of course, is keeping on the swiping on the credit cards, and of course, somebody swiping that credit card with the record credit card debt. That's how we have to be doing, to be doing on the go, and that's how we have to be hydration, and that's how we have to be on the consequential things as we do, and that's how we gotta get that rock and rolling to get it on the left and on the right and in the butchers and the bakers. And you need some help?
No, I don't.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye bye. Have a nice day. Thought my fellow citizen needed some help there. Oops. I guess I can be of help for the senior citizens, and that's how we have to be doing like that. And that's how we have to be rock and rolling about it. So we gotta get drilling, man. Here we are, gonna check that movie, and grateful, thankful my rent's paid and electricity bill's paid. That's what we got, and gonna go straight to get that hydration. See if I can get a little bit of that hydration to get it on the go, and that's how we gotta get zipped. On the toes, pledge your allegiance to our family. Consequently and prudently, gonna get on those drills here to get seal. We got some workout there, and that's how we got a little bit of that workout and a little bit of that training, exercising. That's how we gotta get drilling, and it's always pledge your allegiance, something which we have to be consequently and prudent about, and something which we have to be living. Here you can go do your nails if you want to do your nails. Also, you can do your nails or whatever you want to do with the nails on the go, and that's how we have to be consequential about, I want to do my nails for the dance, but I'm not gonna do them today. Maybe next time, some things which we gotta, just gonna go get some candies, and that's about it.